Something strange is happening to you right now. And the unsettling part is that you can't fully explain it. You wake up in the morning and, for a brief second, the person looking back at you in the mirror feels unfamiliar. Not in a dramatic way, just enough to make you pause. The clothes you used to love sit untouched, as if they belong to someone else. The music that once reached you deeply now passes through without leaving a mark. Conversations feel harder to stay present in, even with people you care about. And slowly, almost reluctantly, a question begins to form in the background of your mind. What is wrong with me? You might wonder if you're losing your grip, if you're becoming disconnected, or if something inside you has started to malfunction. The more you try to push that feeling away, the stronger it becomes. But what if this discomfort isn't a warning sign? What if it's an invitation? The truth is, you're not losing interest in the old version of yourself because something is broken. You're losing interest because that version of you has reached its limit. There is an internal intelligence that knows when a chapter has completed itself. It doesn't argue or explain. It simply begins to withdraw energy from what no longer aligns. What once felt meaningful starts to feel distant, not because it failed, but because it fulfilled its purpose. This isn't a random phase, and it isn't something that needs a label. It's a natural consequence of consciousness expanding beyond the shape it has been living in. Growth doesn't always arrive as excitement. Sometimes it arrives as disinterest. Sometimes it arrives as silence. Sometimes it arrives as the quiet realization that the life you built no longer fits the person you're becoming. And that realization can feel deeply destabilizing. At some point, you begin to notice that the things which once gave shape to your days no longer hold the same weight. Activities that used to absorb you now feel strangely empty. Goals that once pulled you forward seem distant, almost irrelevant. Even your sense of direction starts to blur, as if the internal compass you relied on has quietly stopped responding. This shift can feel unsettling because it doesn't arrive with a clear explanation. It happens subtly, through disinterest rather than collapse. What's actually taking place is not a loss of meaning, but a redistribution of energy. Your awareness is no longer fully invested in the structures that once defined you. Those structures did their job. They supported you through a certain stage of development, but they were never meant to be permanent. As your consciousness expands, it naturally begins to disengage from forms that can no longer contain it. This disengagement often feels like emptiness before it feels like freedom. The mind searches for something to replace what's fading, but nothing immediately fits. That's because this phase isn't about substitution. It's about space. Before something new can emerge, the old has to loosen its grip. And that loosening can feel like loss, even when it isn't. In nature, growth frequently requires shedding rather than accumulation. A form reaches its limit, not because it failed, but because it completed its function. When that happens, holding onto it becomes constricting. The discomfort you're feeling is a signal that your inner world is reorganizing itself around a broader perspective. You're not regressing. You're transitioning out of a structure that once made sense and into a state where meaning hasn't fully reassembled yet. This is why so much feels undefined. You're between identities, between reference points, between ways of relating to the world. The unfamiliarity isn't a problem to solve, it's a condition to move through. And while it may feel disorienting now, it's also the necessary ground from which a more authentic alignment can eventually arise. The real strain begins when your internal changes collide with the expectations of the external world. We're conditioned to believe that stability means continuity, that a coherent life is one where interests remain consistent, ambitions stay intact, and direction never wavers too much. So when your inner landscape begins to shift, the pressure to maintain appearances intensifies. You may find yourself trying to recommit to paths that no longer resonate, hoping the old spark will return if you just apply enough effort. But effort doesn't resolve misalignment. it amplifies it. The more you force yourself to engage with a life that no longer reflects your internal state, the heavier everything feels. What once required energy now drains it. This exhaustion isn't a lack of motivation. It's the result of sustaining a mismatch between who you are becoming and the structures you're still inhabiting. It's like continuing to operate from an outdated internal framework while something deeper is already asking for an upgrade. Nothing flows because the foundation has shifted. For many people, these transitions unfold slowly, almost imperceptibly. But for you, it feels abrupt, as if the familiar architecture of meaning dissolved faster than expected. Without the usual anchors of purpose and enthusiasm, there's a sense of suspension. A waiting period where forward momentum feels inaccessible. As this process continues, the way you relate to motivation begins to change. What once pushed you forward through effort and discipline no longer works the same way. The strategies you used to rely on feel ineffective, not because you've lost drive, but because your system is no longer organized around force. It's reorganizing around resonance. Instead of chasing outcomes, you start responding to subtle pulls. Instead of doing what you think you should want, you become more sensitive to what actually draws your attention. This shift often feels confusing because it doesn't follow linear logic. It asks for patience in a culture that rewards urgency. During this phase, solitude often becomes more appealing, not as avoidance, but as regulation. Time alone helps your nervous system adjust to its new orientation. You may notice a growing intolerance for superficial engagement, not out of judgment, but out of sensitivity. Your energy has become more selective, and what once felt neutral now feels draining. This can create a sense of loneliness, especially when the people around you don't recognize the internal transition you're undergoing. They may interpret your withdrawal as uncertainty or instability, urging you to return to what's familiar. But familiarity doesn't always equal alignment. Sometimes it's just habit. Your dreams and long-term goals may also begin to dissolve. What once felt essential now feels disconnected from who you are becoming. This loss of direction can be frightening because those dreams gave your life structure. Without them, there's a feeling of being unanchored. Yet this disorientation is part of the process. Orientation can't reorganize itself until the old reference points release their hold. You're not meant to immediately replace what's falling away. This phase asks you to stay with the uncertainty long enough for something more authentic to take shape. What emerges on the other side won't be built from expectation, but from alignment. Quieter, deeper, and far more sustainable. This pause can trigger anxiety because it lacks visible progress. From the outside, it may look like stagnation. From the inside, it feels like standing still while everything reorganizes beneath the surface. Yet this apparent stillness is not inactivity. It's recalibration. A quiet restructuring that happens before clarity can return in a form that actually fits who you are now. Trying to rush this phase only deepens the friction. The pressure to figure it out often comes from old definitions of success that no longer apply. What's required here isn't action, but allowance, the willingness to remain present while the internal shift completes itself.